When a woman ignores you, the first thing most men feel is panic. Their mind starts racing, their chest tightens, and suddenly they're trapped in this storm of overthinking. What did I do wrong? Is she losing interest? Should I text again? That reaction comes from fear, not strength. But the moment you react from fear, you hand her all your power. You let her silence dictate your emotions. And once that happens, she no longer feels attraction, she feels control. That's why the real move, the most effective move, is the one almost no man uses, staying emotionally grounded. Staying grounded means you don't chase her, you don't blow up her phone, and you don't beg for attention. You breathe, you stay calm, you let the moment pass. Instead of letting your emotions drag you around like a puppet, you become the guy who sits still inside the storm, the guy who doesn't break his own frame just because someone else changed their behavior. That's the kind of presence that hits differently. It shocks her because she expected you to react. She expected you to fold, to worry, to rush in and fix something she didn't even explain. But when you don't, when you keep your cool, that's when she realizes she's not dealing with a man who responds to pressure. She's dealing with a man who knows his worth. See, a woman ignoring you does not automatically mean she's done with you. Sometimes she wants space. Sometimes she's testing your stability. Sometimes she's overwhelmed. Sometimes she's trying to see what you'll do. But if your first move is to chase her, you fail the test before you even know you're being tested, she might pull away just to see if you lose yourself without her. And if you do, she instantly knows you're not emotionally grounded enough to handle her emotions or moods or her complexity. But when you stay centered, something powerful happens. She begins to feel your balance. Women are incredibly sensitive to a man's emotional temperature. They can feel when you're stable and when you're spiraling, and nothing comforts a woman more than a man who stays calm when she goes unpredictable. That calmness isn't about pretending you don't care. It's about refusing to let someone else's behavior decide your state of mind. When she pulls back and you remain composed, it creates respect. It creates curiosity. It creates attraction. Think of it like this. Imagine you're a mountain. Storms come and go. Winds hit you. Rain pours down. But the mountain doesn't flinch. It doesn't move. It doesn't collapse just because the sky changed color. That's what staying emotionally grounded looks like. You stand tall. You remain steady. You don't break your shape just because someone else shifted theirs. And when you don't react, when you stay calm, it forces her to reflect. She starts wondering if ignoring you even affected you. She starts asking herself whether you're upset, unbothered, or simply too focused on your own life to chase someone who isn't choosing you. That uncertainty hits her harder than any text you could have sent. Because now, instead of you seeking her validation, she's trying to figure out what she lost access to. Staying grounded also protects you from emotional decisions. When you're calm, you see things clearly. You respond with maturity instead of fear. You recognize your own value, and you only give your energy to people who match it. You move from needing someone to respecting yourself, and that shift in energy, she feels it, she senses it, and it changes the dynamic instantly. The moment you stay calm, when she pulls away, you show her the kind of man who's not controlled by silence but strengthened by it. When a woman ignores you, one of the most subtle yet powerful strategies you can use is to match her energy without becoming cold or distant in a way that feels punitive. The instinct for most men is to either chase her desperately or respond with anger, frustration, or passive aggression. Both reactions signal emotional dependence, and they give her control over your feelings. The more effective approach, the one that shifts the dynamic entirely, is to mirror her energy in a calm, confident, and emotionally intelligent way. This isn't about punishing her, it's about protecting your own peace while maintaining your value. Matching her energy starts with observation. Notice how she's behaving. Is she distant, short in replies, distracted, or inconsistent? Once you recognize the pattern, adjust your behavior accordingly. You don't need to escalate, beg, or overcompensate. Instead, you simply align your level of interaction with hers, ensuring you're neither overexposing your availability nor undercutting your own standards. Women unconsciously notice this alignment. It communicates that you're aware, perceptive, and emotionally self-sufficient. You're not. reacting out of need. You're reacting from awareness. The key here is emotional balance. You mirror her distance without turning it into coldness or bitterness. You don't shut down entirely and you don't drop off the face of the earth just to make her feel guilty. That's manipulation, not mastery. Instead, you allow yourself to remain calm, approachable, and in control of your emotions. You engage with her naturally only as much as her behavior warrants, and you stop putting your emotional energy into trying to fix the situation. This subtle, quiet control sends a signal she can't ignore that you are neither broken by her absence nor dependent on her validation. When a man mirrors her energy in this way, it naturally shifts the power dynamic. She expected you to overreact, to chase, or to become frustrated. She expected her withdrawal to elicit anxiety, attention, or desperation. But when none of those reactions appear, it triggers a subtle emotional recalibration. She starts questioning her assumptions, wondering if the strategy of ignoring you is actually effective. And when she notices your emotional stability, her curiosity and attraction grow because she sees a man who is grounded, confident, and unattached to outcomes. This doesn't mean you withdraw completely from life or interaction. It means you maintain dignity while preserving your boundaries. Your goal is not to make her chase, manipulate her emotions, or punish her. Your goal is to show through your behavior that you are in control of yourself and your energy. That control is magnetic. It demonstrates that your attention is earned, not taken for granted, and that you are capable of living fully regardless of her actions. It's also important to recognize that this strategy builds patience and clarity. Instead of reacting impulsively, you observe, analyze, and respond with intention. You give yourself space to assess her true intentions rather than letting confusion or frustration cloud your judgment. Women are naturally sensitive to calm composure, and they respond to men who do not lose their center in the face of emotional uncertainty. Mirroring her energy effectively communicates that you are a man who knows his value and does not need constant validation. Over time, this approach reshapes the dynamic between you. She may initially test the boundaries, but your calm consistency forces her to see the man you've become. She notices that you are steady, emotionally independent, and unaffected by her attempts to create imbalance. That awareness changes how she interacts with you. She begins to respect your space, your confidence, and your emotional intelligence. In essence, by simply matching her energy without becoming reactive, you shift from being emotionally controlled to being the one who sets the tone. When done correctly, this approach allows your silence and your calm behavior to speak louder than words. She begins to feel the impact of your steadiness without realizing it consciously. It's subtle, indirect, and profoundly effective. By matching her energy thoughtfully, you protect your own peace, maintain your value, and create a space where respect and attraction can naturally grow. When a woman ignores you, the most transformative thing you can do isn't to chase her or to overanalyze her motives. It's to redirect your focus completely onto your own mission. Most men make the mistake of pouring all their energy into wondering why she's distant, how to get her attention back, or whether she's losing interest. That energy is wasted. It keeps you tied to her emotional whims and leaves you vulnerable to anxiety, self-doubt, and insecurity. Instead, the most powerful response is to invest that same energy into building yourself, pursuing your goals, and leveling up in every area of your life. Redirecting your focus starts with clarity. Understand that she is not the center of your life. She's a part of your life only if she adds value and aligns with your standards. When she ignores you, it's a signal to step back and evaluate where your attention should really be. Instead of obsessing over her, channel that energy into something productive, your career, your physical fitness, your social life, your hobbies, your personal growth. Every hour you spend improving yourself is an hour she can't touch emotionally. Every step you take toward becoming your best version shifts the dynamic without you having to say a word. When you focus on your mission, you automatically regain power. She notices, even subconsciously, that you are no longer emotionally dependent on her attention. That shift in energy is magnetic. Women are drawn to men who have purpose and direction because they radiate confidence, self-sufficiency, and value. By pouring your energy into your goals, you communicate something far more powerful than words ever could. You are a man who chooses himself first. You are a man who does not wait around for validation. You are a man whose life moves forward with or without her involvement. This isn't about ignoring her out of spite or being emotionally unavailable for manipulation. It's about establishing boundaries and prioritizing your growth. A man who focuses on his mission doesn't react to her moods, texts, or withdrawal. He doesn't lose sleep wondering if she's thinking about him. He remains steady, centered, and productive. That calm confidence sends a clear message. Your value is intrinsic, not dependent on anyone else's behavior. Your energy is reserved for pursuits that align with your purpose, and that kind of self-respect is irresistible. Redirecting your focus also protects your emotional state. When you stop ruminating about why she's ignoring you, you prevent frustration, anxiety, and insecurity from taking hold. You reclaim your mental space and your emotional stability. Every action you take toward improving yourself becomes a reinforcement of your independence. You are no longer reactive, you are proactive. You are no longer stuck in a cycle of neediness. You are leading your own life intentionally. The beauty of this approach is that it forces clarity for her as well. She begins to notice a shift whether she wants to admit it or not. She sees that you are moving forward without her, that you are not chasing, that you are not pleading for attention or reassurance. That realization creates curiosity, respect, and often a subtle emotional pull. Your silence and self-focus become the mirror that reflects a version of you she may have taken for granted, and that mirror can be more impactful than any conversation or confrontation. Ultimately, when you redirect your energy toward your mission, you transform yourself, you grow stronger, more confident, and more self-reliant. You no longer need her to validate your worth, and that independence changes the entire dynamic between you. By focusing on yourself, you demonstrate that your life has momentum, purpose, and value, and that is a power she cannot ignore. When a woman ignores you, your silence and self-possession act as a mirror that eventually reveals her true intentions. Most men panic, sending endless messages trying to fill the void or overanalyzing every social media post. But the reality is that when you step back and maintain your composure, you allow her actions or lack thereof to speak for themselves. Ignoring a man isn't always straightforward. Sometimes it's a test, sometimes it's a reflection of her uncertainty, and sometimes it's a sign she's evaluating her own feelings. By acting with calm confidence and refusing to overreact, you create a situation where the truth inevitably surfaces. When you maintain your silence and focus on yourself, it forces her to reflect on her own behavior. She begins to wonder why you aren't responding the way she expected, why you aren't chasing, why your emotional energy is no longer accessible to her at her convenience. That curiosity pushes her to examine her feelings in a way she might have avoided if you had continued reacting. The absence of your neediness creates a vacuum where her true intentions and desires start to emerge. She may begin questioning whether ignoring you is actually serving her best interest or whether she miscalculated your value. The key here is restraint. Restraint doesn't mean coldness or emotional withdrawal for the sake of revenge. It means emotional discipline. It means observing without reacting and letting her choices show their natural consequences. When a man ceases to chase, it naturally forces clarity. She can't rely on your reactions to validate her own actions anymore. She must confront her own motivations and emotions. If she truly cares, she will feel the pull to engage. If she doesn't, that too becomes clear. In both cases, your emotional composure allows the truth to emerge without manipulation. This approach also builds your inner strength. By choosing to remain grounded, you reinforce your own self-respect and autonomy. You're no longer trapped in a loop of seeking approval or validation from someone who is creating distance. Instead, you are free to live according to your own standards, values, and priorities. That personal power radiates whether she notices it consciously or not, and it subtly shifts the dynamic in your favor. She begins to recognize that she cannot control your emotions through avoidance or games, which creates respect, curiosity, and sometimes even longing. Another important aspect is patience. The truth rarely emerges instantly. Ignoring a man can be a temporary strategy on her part, sometimes driven by pride, sometimes by confusion. By staying calm and not reacting impulsively, you allow time for the situation to reveal itself. Every day you maintain composure is a day she has to confront her own feelings. And when she eventually does, she will see you not as a man to manipulate, but as a man of standards and emotional stability. A man she either wants to engage with honestly or one she must accept has moved on. Finally, by letting silence work its magic, you remove drama, guilt, and unnecessary emotional turmoil from the situation. She can't test you, provoke you, or create unnecessary tension because you are no longer reacting to her whims. The dynamic becomes simple and clear. She either values the connection enough to act, or she doesn't. Your consistency, calmness, and focus on your own life become the benchmark for her behavior. She can no longer hide behind distractions, pretenses, or games. By acting with emotional discipline and letting silence reveal her intentions, you create clarity not just for her, but for yourself. You discover who is truly invested and who is not, and you protect your energy from being misused. That clarity is the ultimate power a man can hold when he refuses to chase, reacts with calm, and stays focused on his own life. When a woman ignores you, one of the most critical things you can do is maintain your respect, confidence, and composure without succumbing to drama or neediness. Many men, when faced with silence or avoidance, immediately react with frustration, guilt, or desperation. They beg, over-explain, or try to force a response. But this behavior only diminishes your value and confirms the very insecurity she may be sensing. Staying respectful, confident, and emotionally unavailable to unnecessary drama is the cornerstone of turning the situation to your advantage. It's not about being cold or detached for the sake of manipulation. It's about setting boundaries and honoring your own worth. Confidence is the first pillar. When she ignores you, a confident man does not panic. He does not assume the worst, and he does not overanalyze every minor detail. Instead, he trusts in his own value and remains steady. Confidence is visible in your demeanor, your choices, and your energy. When you hold your head high and continue living your life fully, she senses that your self-worth is independent of her attention. That perception instantly elevates your presence in her mind. Women are naturally drawn to men who are emotionally grounded because they feel stability and security radiating from them. Respect is equally vital. Respect for her, for yourself, and for the dynamic between you both. It doesn't mean tolerating manipulation or games, but it does mean you respond with maturity instead of reactivity. You acknowledge her choices without needing to correct or judge them. You don't send angry messages, you don't guilt her for distance, and you don't overcommit to someone who is not actively choosing to engage with you. Respect for yourself and for her space communicates that you are a man of integrity, someone whose attention and energy are not disposable. Emotional unavailability to drama is the third key. Drama feeds on emotional reactions. When a man reacts with anger, jealousy, or desperation, he gives her power over his state of mind. Silence and calm composure, on the other hand, make her uncertainty work in your favor. By refusing to participate in manipulative games, you force clarity. She must confront the truth of her feelings, and you maintain control of your own emotions. This isn't emotional coldness, it's emotional discipline. It's the ability to choose what you invest in rather than being swayed by someone else's inconsistent behavior. The combination of confidence, respect, and unavailability to drama creates a magnetic energy. It makes you unpredictable in the most attractive way. She can no longer assume she has the power to dictate your emotional responses. Every attempt to manipulate or test you meets with calm steadiness, which forces her to evaluate her own intentions and behavior. She begins to recognize that you are a man who values himself, a man who does not chase or plead, and a man whose time and energy are not to be wasted. That realization subtly shifts her perspective, often more effectively than words ever could. Maintaining these qualities also protects your self-esteem. You avoid the trap of emotional dependency, the kind that leads men to compromise their values for the sake of attention. By holding your standards, you preserve your dignity and create a sense of inner strength that she cannot ignore. It demonstrates that your happiness and fulfillment do not hinge on her responses, but on your own actions and priorities. Ultimately, staying respectful, confident, and unavailable to drama turns silence into a powerful tool. It communicates your value without words, maintains your emotional sovereignty, and shifts the dynamics, so she must recognize the man you have become. This approach transforms a potentially frustrating situation into an opportunity to demonstrate self-mastery and elevate both your presence and your influence. When a woman ignores you, the final step to mastering the situation is to become the man who is always wanted, never needy. Most men fall into the trap of trying to win attention, prove their worth, or convince a woman to care. That neediness undermines attraction because it communicates dependence and insecurity. A man who understands his value does the opposite. He maintains his standards, lives his life with purpose, and allows his presence to speak for itself. By becoming the type of man who is focused, confident, and unattached to her reactions, you shift the dynamic entirely from one where she controls your emotions to one where your energy and life define the terms of engagement. Becoming the man who is always wanted begins with self-mastery. It means understanding that your worth is intrinsic, not conditional on someone else's attention or approval. You don't need her to text, respond, or validate you to feel whole. This independence is magnetic because women are naturally drawn to men who are emotionally complete. When you stop seeking her validation, you automatically elevate your presence. You radiate a sense of calm authority, a stability that contrasts sharply with her emotional games, and she can't help but notice. Another critical aspect is living purposefully. A man who is always wanted is deeply engaged in his life, whether she's present or not. He focuses on his career, his passions, his physical health, his social connections, and his personal growth. Every step he takes toward his goals reinforces his self-respect and demonstrates that his time and energy are precious. This isn't about ignoring her to punish her, it's about occupying yourself with things that add real value to your life. The more fully you live, the more irresistible your presence becomes because attraction grows naturally when a man is fulfilled and unapologetically himself. Part of this approach is also patience and timing. You don't chase, you don't react impulsively, you allow space and time to reveal her true intentions. By staying composed, you force her to confront the fact that you are not dependent on her attention. That absence, paired with your consistency and self-respect, creates curiosity, reflection, and often an emotional pull that she did not anticipate. Silence becomes a tool not for punishment, but for clarity, both for you and for her. Emotional boundaries are equally essential. A man who is always wanted doesn't tolerate disrespect, manipulation, or inconsistency. He holds firm to his standards without being rigid or cold. By refusing to compromise his values for someone who is ignoring him, he signals that he is not easily swayed. That firmness is attractive because it communicates confidence, integrity, and self-worth. Women sense that he is not available to uncertainty or drama, which naturally increases his desirability. This evolution also protects your emotional energy. When you stop reacting to her silence and instead focus on yourself, you preserve your mental clarity and emotional stability. You no longer allow someone else's behavior to dictate your mood or your sense of self. That emotional sovereignty is rare, and it is what makes a man irresistible. She may not say it out loud, but she feels the shift. She senses that the man she ignored is no longer available to her on the same terms, and that realization is far more compelling than any text call or argument could ever be. Ultimately, becoming the man who was always wanted, never needy, transforms not just your interactions with her, but your entire approach to life. You are no longer a participant in someone else's emotional games. You are a man with focus, purpose, and unshakable self-respect. Your energy, your presence, and your evolution speak louder than any words, and in that you create a dynamic where attraction, respect, and desire are inevitable.